if you could introduce yourself, like your name, where you're from, and what you do right now.
My name's Quinn. I was born in Texas, but I lived in Littleton, Colorado, or like Highlands Ranch, for most of my life. But now I'm a full-time mom. I go to college full-time, and I also work a full-time job.
Could you explain a little bit of like your background and like what life was like before you started exploring college options for you?
Life was not super great. It was really hard for me. I definitely experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of hard situations. And actually, right before I started college was kind of one of the hardest times of my life, emotionally, physically, mentally.
Our first question was kind of like what made college feel like complicated or kind of uncertain.
I think definitely finances was like the major option. There's also like a lack of trust in myself. Doing it alone like made me feel really unsure about the whole process because I didn't really have a support system. Yeah, no, it was really just the fact that I was doing a lot of everything by myself, just kind of figuring it out.
What were some fears or doubts that you were kind of carrying at that time?
I was pregnant at the time, and I was definitely afraid of failure for sure. That was like my biggest thing of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be no good at it.
What would you say was like the biggest barrier or challenge, kind of like talking about information, cost, support?
I think it was just mainly the information. When I applied and got accepted, there was a whole lot of stuff that I didn't even know that I had to do or how to do or even how to start. So that was, I think, the biggest challenge for me for sure.
So now I think we're going to move into the financial aid side, so I'll leave it to Rayla.
Is there any things you wish you knew before you started this process?
Honestly, I wish I had known that like you can actually look through the FAFSA website without creating an account before you even start applying for colleges or even while you're applying for colleges. You can load up the website, you can look through it, and it has different sections on there for you to look at for like finances, special circumstances, and other information. And I wish I would have done that, because if I would have known ahead of time that I needed all of this extra paperwork, then I could have already had it completed so that when I got my acceptance letter from school, I could just submit everything right away instead of having to go through the process like in the moment.
Are there like 2 to 3 specific tips that you would give to students that are applying for financial aid?
I think that my first tip for sure is to understand whether or not you are an independent student or dependent student. So, like I said, like go through the FAFSA website and they have those special circumstances on there for you. If you know that you are going to be dependent, or even if you are going to be independent, have your own tax information handy, or have your guardian, if you're dependent, your applicable guardian's tax information handy, so, because you will need to submit that.
What did you look for besides academics to know a school would support you well?
I know I had mentioned that I didn't look into my college at all, but I think looking back on it, the one thing I would really be interested in is like their class sizes. And that's something that I struggle a lot with, like having big class sizes. I feel kind of less secure about myself and my education. So I think it would be important, if it matters to you, to kind of look into those things of, hey, am I going to expect a class of 100, 150, 200 people? Or am I going to be in a class with that's like maybe 20 to 40? What's manageable for me?
Okay, and I know you talked about the resources at your school, like the Iris desk. So kind of like relating to that, how did you gauge like how responsive the financial aid office was, or like how would you kind of figure out how to gauge that in different schools?
Actually, so before I really started, it was my very first semester, they automatically paired me with a financial advisor. They had paired me with a goals advisor, which was the special program I was in for the intro to college courses. And then I also had another advisor. I think it was like my general advisor. So I had 3 people I could go to. I reached out to my financial advisor. I sent them emails of, hey, what other scholarships do I have? What opportunities do I have that I can apply for? I don't know if this answers your question or not, but my school does actually have a general scholarship application form. So you fill out on their end like a general scholarship form, and then it automatically loads like different scholarship opportunities that fit that original form. Some of them you don't even have to like physically apply for, some of them you do, and they all range from like $200 to like $1,500, right? Or potentially more depending on the scholarship. You may have to write papers, you may have to do some extra work to apply for those extra opportunities, but they are there. And having somebody to like be assigned to me and like my stuff was helpful, because it was like, okay, she's gonna know what she's talking about, and I don't have to like go through everything because she sees my application, she knows what's going on.
Okay, so piggybacking off of that, let's talk about some of the people or programs that made a difference, and I'll just hand it over to Reva.
If you could reflect on other people and, programs that, made a difference in your, career and your journey, who would you say helped you the most? Like out of mentors, counselors, teachers, friends, and scholarship programs, what would you say helped you the most?
At first, it was 100% my high school guidance counselor. She was my biggest support system for sure. I did also have the Unite to Uplift team and the Friends of Eagle Academy team in my corner.
What did your high school guidance counselor do in specific that made a real difference?
She believed in me, like unequivocally. Like even when I made really dumb decisions and did not always the right thing, when it felt like nobody else cared, she did. And I think it's really important that like having somebody that trusts you to be successful for myself, not for their own gain, was really impactful. I never thought I'd even live this long or like be where I am at or have a good life, but she always knew that I was capable of better and that I was capable of being in this place.
Are there any like specific scholarships or programs that also gave you hope in addition to your guidance counselor?
So again, the Unite to Uplift scholarship and the Friends of Eagle Academy scholarship helped a lot in me at least applying to college and the continuation as well. Even though they're still supporting me, one of the biggest things that I recently got was my school has a foundation scholarship where if you're applicable, they pay for your whole like tuition except for your books and taxes and fees, like general student fees and things like that. And I got accepted for that, and that was amazing. I like was literally bawling. And I think that really helped a lot. And I was like, now I don't need to take out loans. I can talk with these people and say I still need some help with books, the taxes and fees, because I think it's like it was like $200 per class of fees, and that's not with books. It's still not nothing, but it is a lot of help for sure.
And we know emotional support is honestly just as important as getting support, financially as well. So, in terms of like both these support systems, where would you tell a student to go, or what would you tell a student if they're too nervous or ashamed to ask for help in both these aspects?
You are making the step to apply to college because you feel like you're worthy of going to college. You feel like you're ready to do this. You want to do important things. You want to do big things with your life. How can you do that by yourself? Even if you've lived your life being alone, making decisions for yourself, supporting yourself, I think it's important to let some of that control go and really touch base, at least give it a try for these new support systems like in your school, whether it's your high school or your college, of, hey, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I don't know how to do this. They're going to understand. So it's just a matter of like, if it's scary, that means it's a good thing, right? It means it's new.
As well as, knowing, how students will react to it when they're faced with, educators and counselors. What's one, thing that you would want these particular educators and counselors to know when they're navigating students through financial barriers?
To understand that everybody comes from a different place, whether they have the family financial support or not. There's always a need for more. There's always a want for more. And understand that a student coming to you, like, they may come at you the wrong way just because of their anxiety, because of their nervousness, because of their uncertainty, and just to have patience and understanding and handle those situations with grace and treat every student the same, no matter their background or financial abilities or what questions they're asking.
So, talking about your journey, what helped you go from feeling like undecided to choosing how to navigate like your own path?
This lady named Beth, she helps me with the Friends of the Eagle Academy scholarship. She actually called me up and she told me, she's like, hey, if you don't apply to college, you're losing the scholarship. Because I was like, I don't know. She's like, you're going to lose it. I don't want to do that. So I actually applied the same week. And it was really that pushed me there. It was like, I don't want to be stuck working in fast food my whole life. So yeah, let's just apply and see what happens.
What was one hard moment after you started, and then how did you like navigate that or come back from that?
I think it was right before I found out I was pregnant that I got my acceptance letter, that I was accepted into college. And so shortly after that I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna have a 5-month-old when school starts. And that was really concerning for me. I was like, how am I gonna do this? But oh well, I already decided I'm gonna do it. I need to do it. So I communicated with all of my professors, with all of my advisors, and for a long time I was allowed to, even now if I needed to, I could bring her to school with me, to bring her to classes with me. I was given, at the time, there were no resources for breastfeeding parents. And I actually started a new program because I was like, hey, I need to pump or I need to feed my kid. And they were able to actually start getting lactation rooms. And a lot of my professors were very, very understanding of if I had to bring her to class, and were more than happy to work with me as long as I was communicating those needs. And so, yeah, definitely like 100% communicate with your professors. I always go introduce myself to my professors the first day of class, and I'm like, hey, this is me, these are my pronouns, this is the kind of student that I am. Also, please understand that my child does come first. I find that very important because I know myself as a student, and the way I learn is very different than your average population. Can't recommend that enough. Just communicate.
Reflecting on your journey, what would you say that you are most proud of today?
I'm just proud of how far I've come. I have been getting at least a 3.0 GPA every semester. This semester I actually got a 3.5. My kid is growing into being an amazing human being. I'm just proud of myself for not giving up and continuing to do my best, even though sometimes it sucks and sometimes it's really hard or it's really annoying and I just don't want to.
If you could speak to your past self in that moment, what would you say?
I think that I would tell myself to just like focus on me. I spent way too much time thinking about others, focusing on others, their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions, and that left no room for me. So I think definitely if I could visit old me, I would tell them that, it's okay to think about yourself. It's okay to be selfish every once in a while.